I just wish that we could live in a world where it wouldn't be courageous to say the truth.
I think it is a hard time for people to tell what they're feeling because they might be scared. Like if they're like big and scary, or if they're
Big and scary.
or if they're like your boss and they don't listen.
I feel like it's so liberating to be able to tell the truth.
I would say, don't be afraid to tell the truth.
What if I get fired? I could get fired. I could lose my job, Emma. Wait, you're shrugging your shoulders? What does that mean?
Then find another job.
Oh, say that again?
Then find another job that listens to you and you like.
If they don't honor who I am as a person, I shouldn't be here because they're causing me harm. We want to create spaces where every bit of me can come into the workplace, can come into schools, because if you get all of me, it's going to make the school so much better. It's going to make your workplace so much better. You're going to get all my brilliance. So let's change it for everyone to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
Welcome to Living in 3D Power. Discover your truth, discern your path, determine your power. I'm Dr. Amber Sessoms, and together, let's unlock our power, build authentic connections, and foster collective liberation. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to episode 16 of Living in 3D Power. And today's episode is special, like I think they all are, but it's a conversation that reminds us how telling the truth, especially about our emotions, is not just an act of courage, it's an act of leadership. So last week, we received so much love from y'all, our community, about Emma's emotional honesty. Messages poured in from parents, educators, leaders who saw themselves in her vulnerability and who we reminded ourselves that we are in terms of our emotional honesty. It's not childish, it's brave, and it's necessary. So in today's episode, Emma and I go deeper. We explore why it's hard for both kids and adults to tell the truth about how they feel. We talk about the fear of retaliation, the pressure to stay silent, and the healing that can happen when someone truly listens and believes you. So, as always, Emma's wisdom is layered, it's funny, it's unfiltered in the best way. So if you lead a team, if you raise a child, if you are a person moving through this wild world, today's conversation will have something for you. So let's get into it.
It's me, it's me, it's me. It's me, it's me, it's me. Hey, it's me, Emma. Welcome back to Living in 3D Power, and today we are going to be talking about telling the truth / emotions.
Yes, or emotional honesty. And I think, I know this is why this is an important topic, because you got some pretty powerful feedback from our episode last week when you got emotional. Remember, you were trying to hold it all in, and you just climbed into my lap and cried. And it really connected with not only youth, but adults. So I just want to read you a few comments that we found across our social media. And this one is from Kyra Mitchell, and she said, "My youngest loved this episode. I wished I recorded some of her reactions to Emma's responses. Emma has validated all the youngest sibling feelings." And she's the youngest sibling, so I think that's so important because she felt so seen. And I think that's so important when people can see themselves in what you're saying, and it also gives them the language or lets them know that they're not alone, that it's not a unique experience, it's a common experience. And some other people said, like Iconic Life on Instagram, "Oh, Emma," and it was like the welling up tears and like the crying tears emoji. "I felt release in that cry and reassurance in your arms. I admire how you hold space for your babies, so powerful."
Oh.
Diamond said, "Powerful." Keisha Finney, "Need to watch this." It was the welling up with tears emoji and the heart. Let's see. Curls Kinks, Fro and me, her release was my release, and it's a hugging emoji. I applaud her for her courage and you for your openness, allowing my daughters this space for our next sit down time. Thank you. J Love, wow, felt that. And another awe from Quiana Agent. So, oh, and then Dr. Chuck Herring on LinkedIn said, maybe you and Emma should take over for me when it comes to speaking about inclusive leadership. This clip was so impactful and important. Thank you. So I love that you were getting these positive comments because it does stretch. And I think the important part of what I want to talk about today is that it does connect with leadership. And you've talked about leadership. And what's the biggest thing, again, you keep hounding and saying is a leader has to have what skill set?
They have to listen.
They have to listen. And again, that's a lot of my work working with leaders who might not have that as a really strong skill set or recognize that listening is not just sitting down and having conversation, but it's actually doing something with that information, right? You can say, I'm listening to you, but not take it in or honor what they're saying and actually make some changes. So I wanted to talk about that with you today. So I have a few questions. You know, we always have our questions. So we're going to see where we go with this. So the first question I have for you is, do you think it's hard for people to tell the truth about how they feel? Why or why not?
I think it is a hard time for people to tell what they're feeling because they might be scared. Like if they're like big and scary, or if they're
Big and scary.
or if they're like your boss and they don't listen.
Ooh, and so big and scary or your boss. And again, tying this with my work, very recently I had this experience. And what I find is it's not just in childhood, that it goes across generations. It goes across the age span where people struggle to tell the truth. And the biggest thing I find is they're afraid of the reaction from people. Oh. Do you feel that way? Like you're afraid to tell the truth? Because that's happened very recently. You said, what did you say to me one time? I asked you about something and you were keeping quiet. You're like, I'm afraid to say it because... Well,
I don't remember that.
You don't remember? It was maybe a week or so ago, but I said, you can tell me. You're like, I'm afraid if I tell you I'm going to get in trouble. Is that a pretty common thing where maybe sometimes you're afraid to say that thing because you feel like you're going to get in trouble?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give me an example?
Like that actually happened?
Or what either that actually happened or that you were thinking might happen.
Thinking what would happen if I like told you like someone was bullying me, that we would have to talk more about it, and I don't want to.
And you don't want to talk about it? Why not?
Because if I get bullied, which I'm not.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
You don't really want to talk about it because like you're afraid of them.
You're afraid of the bully? So why would you be afraid to talk to me about it?
I don't know.
Is it what you said before because something happened with the teacher and you didn't want to tell me because you thought I was going to be like, what you doing with my daughter? You had your finger wagging. You were trying to pretend you were me with your head bobbing. Is that a fear if I tell you, you might then go to that person or that person, and particularly with bullying, right? That happens a lot. So people that are being bullied, they don't want to tell someone about it because they're afraid then that person's going to get that person in trouble. They're going to retaliate and take it out on them. And there's a way that you handle bullying, but I have found that in some schools or some administrators where they'll go to the person who's doing the bullying and say, Emma said you're bullying her. Or they'll do it in a way that it doesn't protect you. So then
Why
what's
would
the
you
point?
say the name though?
Well, some people need to work on some of their skills.
Because they already know.
Right.
They already know.
But you don't want it to be that the person, the victim told. So there's a way that you have to be able to say it so that it doesn't be like you're tattling, right? Because you ever hear the snitches get stitches?
Yeah.
So that's a way that you can say it. So we've done that in school. It would be like, well, I observed this or I saw this or the teacher told me that this is happening. So there's a way to go around it besides telling that person told. And a lot of my work I do is really much that. So I will have these focus groups, which means small groups of people, and I allow them to talk about what's going on in the workplace. And
Didn't you do that like a couple days ago?
yeah, I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, but it's one of my favorite things to do, but it's also one of the hardest things to do because, again, what I said before is holding space for people. It's so important. So me holding space for you or you holding space for me in this moment is so important to be heard. And in some workplaces, usually I get called into workplaces that are really struggling, where the employees don't feel great. And the leadership will call me in and say, we need some serious help. Now, the hard part is, though, when I hold the space for people and they trust me, they let it all out. And they say some stuff where I'm like, oh, okay, now what do I do with that information? Because I have to take that back to leadership and say, here is what I'm hearing without saying names. So I'm not like, Emma told me that you're a horrible boss, right? I have to say it in a way where the leader can receive it, but it's really hard as a leader, as a
Like,
parent.
Someone said that you were making fun of their paperwork or something like that.
Who is it? Who said it? You know, that's the stuff that can happen. And so when I have these conversations, leadership will get upset. They do get defensive because it's kind of the same with parenting, right? I think these are some of the things that maybe you're afraid of. If I tell you this thing, that I'm going to snap at you or get defensive. And that's a natural thing for human beings to do. So part of my work is like, you have to build relationships. So with you, if you need to tell me something about myself, we have a relationship. So it's a lot easier to take than a stranger. Like if a stranger came up to you and was like, your knees are ashy, you might take it very differently than if I tell you, right? Like you don't even know me. So Sonia Renee Taylor talks about this, and she'll talk about to be in right relationship so someone can call you in. So if you're like, mommy, like that was mean or whatever.
I know her.
You know her because she's your favorite author. I swear, because you keep reading her book. You want to tell them what book that you're obsessed with reading right now?
It's a puberty book.
Yes, Emma is very into, we'll have to put it in the show notes for you parents that are navigating this pre-pubescent, like pre-teen stage. All my girls had books about puberty that was very age appropriate. And Jojo, who just turned 22, she had a book which was American Girl Doll's book.
I have that one.
You had that one, so we kept it for you. And then I think Maya had a similar American Girl Dolls book, and there's some feelings books too. And then Sonia Renee Taylor came out with one. I can't remember under what series it is, but she talks about puberty as well.
I know what series it is. It's Celebrate Your Body.
Celebrate You or something?
No, Celebrate Your Body and Its Changes.
Oh, yeah. So I will definitely put that in a show note because I think, again,
Great book.
Emma's 10, but this one, there's another one by a different author, and I looked through that one and I said, oh, we can't read that one. Emma, you're not ready for that one. But this one, very much age appropriate, and it answers a lot of the questions. So, and it's actually really helped Emma with her reading because she was reading, and she's like hypothalamus. I'm like, what? Like,
That's a part of the brain.
yes. So maybe it'll inspire a budding neuroscientist or neuropsychologist. But yes. So yes, Sonia Renee Taylor talks about this idea of, I'm trying to be in right relationship with you. So if I say something to you, if it's a critique, it's because I want us to work and repair our harm. But the opposite is also true. So if I'm saying something to you and we don't have a relationship, people are going to take that as a criticism and a calling out. So the defensiveness gets really big. So that's something that I have to work on. So when you said leadership and having to tell leadership, so I have to package it in a way, and I don't use names, but I say, here's the things that I'm hearing. There's themes here, but it helps with solutions. So people will get stuck in, all you want to do is complain. They never want to be happy. But it's my job to say, but here's the opportunity I hear in there. We get stuck in focusing on the problem and we don't shift to the solution. So that's what I help teams do. So I think it's hard though. How are we going to solve a problem if we don't know what the issue is? If you can't name the problem, what are you solving? If you're like, everything's fine here. Or we say, oh, you're just being too sensitive, or it's only just 5 people or 2 people that feel that way. So again, we look at the whole system and say, there is an issue here, but I need you to be brave enough to name it. But why do you think, and I think you kind of answered this, like the point of that it takes courage to actually tell the truth or to be honest about how you're feeling. Why do you think it's such a courageous thing to do?
I think it is a courageous thing to do because you are speaking the truth and telling the person what you think, and that's hard sometimes for people.
It's hard to hear, it's hard to say, both. Yeah, and I just wish that we could live in a world where it wouldn't be courageous to say the truth.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. I feel like it's so liberating to be able to tell the truth, to walk in your authenticity. But when you're walking around pretending like, I'm fine, everything's okay. Because no, sometimes you'll do that, right? You'll be like, I'm fine. I'm like, you're crying. You're not fine. And maybe it's because you don't want to talk about it in that moment, or you feel like you're going to get in trouble, or that I'm not going to listen the way that you need. But sometimes like there's a big risk in telling the truth, because what we're really looking for, again, to build a bridge and to build a relationship.
Yes.
And when we tell the truth and people don't listen to us, that hurts.
Jinx.
It hurts a lot. And so what I find in my work, especially with students, even adults though, they'll tell the truth, or say there's an incident that happens in school. So I'm thinking years ago, there was a really horrible racist incident that happened. And a superintendent, we had kind of like a town hall. The students came together, Black and brown students, and they said all the things they had been experiencing. And the superintendent was like, why haven't you told me this before? And they said, we did, you just didn't listen.
Oh.
Yeah. So what will happen sometimes is you'll tell it, right? You'll say the thing and people get defensive, they don't listen, they shut down, or they'll come up with a solution that isn't a really good solution. So the next time something happens because it wasn't safe the first time to talk, are you more likely to say it again if people yelled at you or you got in trouble? You're going to keep it to yourself. And also what that does is it makes you feel like you're the problem or something's wrong with you. So that's the thing about like, how do we help people to become better listeners? And when you tell me something that stings and I might need to shift something, that I can take that in and say, Emma's trying to help me be a better person. She's not saying I'm a horrible mother. She's just saying I need to work on some things. Because remember we had that conversation the other day where you got upset and you're like, I think that you don't love me. And I'm like, why would you think that? It's something that I didn't like or I was frustrated about, but it has nothing to do with you as a whole person. There's just certain aspects, certain things that we do or decisions that we make that might not be the best decision, but it doesn't make us overall a quote unquote bad person. Just maybe we didn't make the best choice, but that doesn't give me the right, or I would never take my love away because there's something I'm frustrated about. So I think sometimes we get really sensitive or we get scared because we think people are going to withdraw their love, because in this world we think love is attached to what I do. And you are just simply loved because you're my daughter and because you exist and God created you. And that love starts with yourself. So there's nothing that you have to do or nothing you can do that's going to take that love away. But again, it's a reaching across and holding my hand, right? So those are some things that you have to tell yourself sometimes, because this world makes it feel like it's an exchange. Like, oh, you did that thing, I'm taking my love back. Oh, you know that you did this thing, let me give you some love. And it's not this exchange, it's just you who you are simply because you exist deserve to have love. Yeah. So I think that's really important. So I think that's great. It really ties in with my work, and you're helping to affirm the work that I do and how important it is, because it's not easy. Yeah. Being the one to say like, hey, I gotta tell you something really hard. Yeah, not the easiest thing to do. Okay, so I think you partially answered this, but I want to just dig a little bit deeper into this one. Has there ever been a time when you felt nervous to say what you were really feeling? What happened?
A couple days ago, remember when you said we were talking about something, and then you said I said I feel like you don't love me anymore. Mm-hmm. That's when I felt nervous to say it, because I didn't know how you were gonna react.
Did you already in your head imagine how I was going to react?
Yeah.
And what did your imagination show you?
That you would get mad at me.
So you thought I was going to get mad at you for saying that I don't think you love me, mommy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was my actual response?
Talking it out.
So it didn't confirm it. It said, oh, well, what I thought wasn't going to happen. So does that help you in the future to maybe be like, oh, I can say things, it's safe to say things? Or do you think you're going to keep going through that, like the nervousness and be like, oh, I don't know how she's going to react to this?
In between.
Right. And to be honest, right, and transparent, I don't always respond the best way, right? Yeah. Sometimes I get frustrated. And so that can cause that sense of nervousness too, because you're like, oh, last time she was really short with me or she was really snapping and I don't even want to deal with that. But I think that's the work that I have to do. And also building that trust that we can talk to each other and create that safe space and that container. And I think that's what people related to in the last episode. Yeah. I had a friend that texted me, and I read you, Dr. Nicole Holland Sims comments, but she was like, you just held her and that's what she needed in that moment. And I think that's important. And it reminded her when her mom did that for her. So I think adults, again, are seeing that. And it's just, that's sometimes all we need. There doesn't need to be words. We just need to hold the space and be like, if you need to cry, let it out. I can't fix it all for you, but I can just be here in the moment with you. Yeah, I think that's really important. So let's think about this. So, right, I'm the person that comes into organizations and tells them the hard things to the leadership. And I'm like, ooh, this is really hard. I have to say this thing. So when someone is honest with you, and it might be like, not brutally honest, but it might sting. It might hurt, be like, but darn, they're right. Or that's their truth. When someone is honest with you about how they feel, how does that make you feel?
Sometimes it makes me feel like a little upset of what they're saying because it's unfair. And another feeling is sorrow because I feel sad for them that they have to experience that.
Oh, wow. And that is like such a genuine thing of your empathy, that you feel what someone else is feeling and that you can name that. Do you know how many adults struggle to name their emotions or the emotions of other people? Like, there's literally a feelings wheel work that I do with organizations or people because they struggle with that. And you are able to name feelings and you can feel or see what someone else is feeling and say, there's a level of like, I'm so sorry that I made you feel that way. And I think that's a really beautiful gift that you have that some adults have to develop, and I have to help them develop, because not everyone feels that way. Yeah. Well, that's not my fault that your feelings got hurt. That's your fault. Or they're being too sensitive. Or I'm a leader and they need to take it. If they don't like it, they can leave. And I want to say Sonia Renee Taylor again, but I'm not sure. But when you talk about you're dehumanizing other people, so it means that you're not seeing them and honoring them as a human being, and that all that's doing is that you're not showing up as your full human self. So you're hurt, and you're therefore hurting someone else. Because as human beings, we should be empathetic, right?
Yes.
If the Creator created us and He's empathetic, they're empathetic, wouldn't we also be that way? So the farther we get away from that, the farther we're getting away from how we were created. So I think that's just such a beautiful thing that you're like, I feel sorrow. I think that's bittersweet.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 more questions. If you could give advice to grown-ups about telling the truth about their feelings, what would you say?
I would say, don't be afraid to tell the truth.
What if I get fired? I could get fired. I could lose my job, Emma. Wait, you're shrugging your shoulders. What does that mean?
Then find another job.
Oh, say that again.
Then find another job that listens to you and you like.
See, that is super important. I think it's your generation and the generation before, this idea of great resignation, where they're not going to stay at a job that's going to disrespect them. So my friend Ellen, she will say, this place doesn't deserve me. If they don't honor who I am as a person, I shouldn't be here because they're causing me harm. So it's hard for a lot of people, and I want to be understanding that some people don't have the privilege to be able to say, I'm just going to leave this job and go to another job. But I think even thinking that allows a level of freedom to say, I don't have to be at this job. I don't have to stay here. There's a place, and I can honor what I deserve and the values that I have and the skill set that I have that's not being honored here, and I can find some place where I can be myself and be appreciated. But a lot of people will stay and just suffer. I've had staff members come to me in the work when I consult with organizations and say, describe it as post-traumatic stress disorder. So that means that they have this level of trauma because their bosses were yelling at them, screaming at them in front of people. And I'm like, how is that happening in the workplace? And again, you remember we talked about the idea of stay in a child's place? That is a through line to bosses and organizations where people that are staff members under the boss, they feel like they have to take that level of abuse. And I was on a podcast recently, I talked about this. This lady described her boss, Emma's yawning, y'all. She described her boss or she described her professor as her abuser. And that should never come out of anyone's mouth. And you feel like you have to stay in that. And the reason was, well, she had to get that degree. So she stayed and she suffered and she was abused verbally by this person because she felt like she had to. And what you're saying is no one deserves that. And if you're experiencing that, you got to get out, right? So I hope Emma's giving you some courage to really just create an exit plan or a strategy for yourself so that you can figure out how do I get out of here, but also honoring that you deserve better than that you don't have to be subjected to that. Okay, perfect. Last question I want to ask you is, how can people make it safer for others to be honest?
People can make it safer for people to be honest by actually listening and supporting them.
Listen, these are things. So we get the listening part, like we're sitting here listening to each other, but what is the support piece? What does that look like? So if I say to an employer, you know, I feel like when I'm in meetings that I can't say what I want to say because I don't feel safe enough, or I've said that thing and then I have a target on my back. So meaning that someone now, because I spoke the truth, is coming at me or trying to get me fired. So it's a hostile work environment, if you've ever heard that term. So meaning that you don't feel safe, that because I said the thing that everyone else heard or believes, but I'm the one that said it, now I'm the target. Instead of looking at, there's a systemic problem, they look at me as a problem. So to that point of saying, like, support them. If I'm saying, I'm struggling here, I don't feel supported, I don't feel safe, what would that look like for a leader that's listening? What should they say?
I understand you.
I understand. And don't we want to be understood? And I think what leaders will do is they say, well, that ain't my problem. Leaders have literally said this. This is work. You leave that stuff at home. You come to work, and you have your personal stuff, leave that at the door or go to therapy. But that doesn't belong in the workplace. And what we're trying to say is, every ounce of me and who I am should be able to come into the workplace. If I'm unhappy about something, I should be able to tell you. And I ask a question of clients and I say, what part of you do you have to leave out the door before you walk into your school, before you walk into, like, are you leaving, are you like, I can't bring this part of Emma to school? Are you ever thinking about, I'll leave that part at home, I'll leave it at the door because it's not welcome here. We want to create spaces where every bit of me can come into the workplace, can come into schools. Because if you get all of me, it's going to make the school so much better. It's going to make your workplace so much better. You're going to get all of my brilliance. But if I don't feel safe and I have to leave the silly part of me, the nerdy part of me, the anime part of me at home, you get a piece of me and not all of me. Emma's mocking me with my hands again. If I don't get to bring my hand gestures in, Emma, you're not getting all this animated version of Amber. And you need all of this, right? So I think those are really important things, to listen, to support, to say, I understand you, and to not just understand, but now there's things that I have to do as a leader to change so that you feel safe. Because if you don't feel safe, you're not the only one. There's other people that are going to feel unsafe too. So let's change it for everyone to feel like they belong. So I just appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate how hard it is to be honest, but I also appreciate what's on the other side of that. If we're honest, we get to something so much better, that we create belonging, that we create safety for people that typically don't feel safe. She's really tired, y'all. So
it's almost 8.
We're doing this late one because she had her track meet today, and I was super excited because I ran track and you ran the 800 as a 10-year-old. And let me just tell you, the funniest part to me was you had your own technique. And I just said, don't come out hard. Pace yourself. But when you came around that last 200, that last 100, and you saw your friend, what was her name?
Cadence.
You saw Cadence, Emma, because Daddy was like, I don't know, when she comes around that corner, I think she's going to be frowning. She's not going to be smiling. I said, oh, you wait. She's going to be smiling. And you saw Cadence and you waved. She literally is running towards the finish line. She looks over, sees her friend. She waves at her and keeps running. And the whole crowd laughed. It was the sweetest thing. So that is very true to who you are. So I love that we were able to see that. But she's tired, y'all. So she's going to sleep well tonight because she ran at 800. And
I just don't want to go to school.
Whew.
I don't want to go to school.
I know. And she has PSSAs tomorrow, which are our state standardized testing in Pennsylvania. So all you parents, caregivers, and educators know how challenging that is for a fourth grader and a third grader. But we don't make big deals about it in this household. All I say is get in a good night's sleep and do your best. That's it. And take your time and double check your work. But it's not the grade on the test or the grade on the assessment does not define you as a person and your level of intelligence. So we're just going to take it in stride and have a good day tomorrow.
Yes.
So any last chicken nugget wisdom for our leaders or parents or students out there about emotional honesty?
Good night, and don't be afraid to tell the truth.
Don't be afraid, and find a trusted person with you that can give you the courage to do it. Practice with someone that you trust first. All right, y'all. See you next time. Okay, so I'm still sitting with everything that Emma shared today. And she's reminding me that the fear of telling the truth doesn't start in adulthood. It starts young, when kids fear getting in trouble, being dismissed, or losing love when they speak up. And honestly, those early experiences shape the leaders we're becoming or the leaders we resist becoming. And in the workplaces, in schools, in families, too often the message is stay small, stay silent, stay in your place. But Emma reminds us, safety isn't just about saying, you can't tell me anything. It's about what happens after someone speaks. It's about how we respond. So true safety looks like listening without interruption, believing without doubting, and supporting without punishing. So it's about showing through our actions that the truth, even when it's messy, even when it's hard to hear, is sacred. So this week, I'm inviting all of us to ask some simple but profound questions. How do we respond when someone is honest with us? Where do we make room for emotional honesty in our homes, in our schools, and in our workplaces? And how can we be the people that others feel safe telling the truth to? And because Emma said, if you find yourself somewhere that doesn't value your voice, maybe it's time for you to find somewhere else to be, or somewhere else that does, right? So this isn't just about kids. It's about reclaiming dignity at every single age. And I thank you for growing with us, for listening with us, and for healing with us. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, please subscribe, like, share, comment on all social media platforms, on podcasts, subscribe to our Substack, also subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see full episodes and shorts. And as always, please continue to discover your truth, discern your path, and determine your power. Until next time, y'all.